What's going on? Welcome back to my channel. So some of you guys asked me why I decided to join General Assembly and decided to do their boot camp. So I thought I would share some of my tips of like how and why I ended up going with General Assembly, despite the fact that it actually wasn't my first choice. So let's get into it. Number one, before you decide what boot camp, you need to decide if you even need to go to a boot camp. So many of you have also asked me, like, do I think it's possible to actually do, I guess, the boot camp curriculum essentially without going to boot camp? And to be honest, my answer is yes. I do think it's very possible. I'm somebody that thrives on a classroom setting and instruction. So even though at the beginning of my coding journey, I was trying to teach myself, I wasn't really progressing the way that I personally felt like I should have been progressing teaching myself, which is why I ultimately decided to go ahead and look into doing another boot camp again. Or not doing another boot camp again, but I decided to actually join the boot camp because remember, for those of you that have been watching, you would know that I was interested in the boot camp, ended up teaching myself for the pre-work, and then decided to just do it on my own, and then ended up coming back to that decision to join a boot camp in March, or end of February, March. So for those of you that have been asking, yes, definitely possible. I would highly recommend, as I've said in previous videos, go to the schools that you think you might be interested in and get their syllabus and just, try and learn those things via the syllabus. You can also use my videos as a resource. I've outlined literally every week what we're doing, so you could go through those videos, a lot of the times in my description, I've listed the things that we did that week. So you can also go through those videos, go through a syllabus, and try and teach yourself. The reason why I say the bootcamp might not be the best thing, may or may not be the best thing, and you may need to decide that this is something you actually need to do, is because, like I've said, it's the technical interviews that really get you the job. The projects get your foot in the door, but it's the technical interviews and passing them that really is the ultimate reason why you'll get the job. And General Assembly, and from what I understand, other boot camps don't really do a great job of doing the technical interview portion. So we're already kind of self-studying on our own for that anyways. So I feel like if you can teach yourself how to do the boot camp, or if you can teach yourself how to do the projects and things like that, then I don't think it would be an issue for you to even take the boot camp. If you can do the projects and do the technical assessments, I mean, yeah, we get tips and tricks, but first you need to decide if you even need to go to a boot camp. That would be the first step. For me, like I said, I thrive on instruction and classroom learning and having somebody keep me accountable. That's where I thrive. And so me doing a boot camp was like the best thing for me, but it might not be the best thing for you. Number two, decide about a time and availability. As I said in a previous video about things I wish I would have known before and during the boot camp, decide how much time you have. In retrospect, although I loved my experience, I think I would have done better in a part-time program, just because that would have given me the ability to continue working and not so much having it shoved down my throat. I think it was very fast-paced. I'm not sure how the 6 month program goes, or the part-time program. I think it's 6 months. It might be shorter. I'm not sure how intensive that is, but I think I may, I guess hindsight is 2020. I think I may have done a little bit better in a part-time program where I could work and juggle, but I also think that me being in the full-time program really solidified the things for me, because I'm doing it every day for long periods of time. So you need to decide what kind of time and availability that you have. That will also help you decide it with the boot camp. With that being said, when I knew, and I was very strategic, that I wanted to do a boot camp that was not that long and that I wouldn't require a lot of outside work time, meaning I got to learn all the way up to React before I start. So when I was doing my research, I kind of narrowed it down to 3 boot camps. 1 was digital crafts, 2 was Flatiron, and 3 was General Assembly. So automatically, Flatiron and digital crafts kind of went towards the bottom of my preferences, just because of the time. I think Flatiron was only 1 month longer than General Assembly, but I was very strategic. I was like, I'm taking this boot camp in March. I need to finish in May, because a lot of people are graduating in May, you know, most kids from undergrad graduate in May and they graduate in December. And so there's a lot of entry level roles open at that time. So I was very strategic when I ultimately decided to pick my boot camp date, that I knew, like, even though it's increased competition, there's also a lot of roles available. So I knew, with that being said, that kind of narrowed it down. Just based on the time of 3 to 4 months, that narrowed it down to digital crafts, flat iron, and general assembly. Number 3, cost. So this is where digital crafts actually eliminated itself for me. And that was because, so I knew obviously I didn't have the money I didn't have $14,000 out of pocket to give to a boot camp immediately, you know, and I didn't want to pay like 3 installments of whatever amount as some of the boot camps require. But you need to decide how you're going to finance this. And I say that to say, because you either need to pick the boot camp and then pick your financing, or decide what kind of financing you're going to do. I ultimately went with the income share agreement, also known as the ISA. I'll be doing a video on that next week. But essentially, I did that. And with that, me deciding to choose that option, that automatically eliminated digital crafts, because digital crafts does not, at the time that I did it, did not have an income share agreement. So you're either going to finance through loans or finance through loans, you know? And for me at the time, they were offering Sallie Mae. Now, in my previous videos, I've talked about how, you know, sometimes it might be better for you to get a loan versus doing the income share agreement, just because, you know, with the loan, you can set the amount. So you don't have to take out the $14,000. You can take out $50,000 or whatever the loan amount is, whatever you feel like you might need to cover your expenses while you're in the boot camp. But the only loan Digital Crafts was offering at the time in March or end of February, when I was deciding to do a boot camp, was Sallie Mae. And anybody that has been to undergrad knows that Sallie Mae was the devil. So because there were no other real options for me, that ultimately eliminated Digital Crafts. I was like, nope. Also, their pre-work. So the pre-work for Digital Crafts, all they asked us to do was put hello world, like put it in HTML and have it render on your screen. And to me, I was like, whereas General Assembly had all of this stuff that we had to do before we could even be admitted into the program, and I was just like, oh. So that's kind of tied into cost, but also the pre-work and the preparation. That was another big factor into why I ended up going with General Assembly. So now we're down to between General Assembly and Flatiron School. So this is where the reviews came in. General Assembly had some reviews. Flatiron, I felt like Flatiron and Digital Crafts had the best reviews. However, Digital Crafts already eliminated themselves alone with that Sallie Mae. But with Flatiron, even though it was 1 month longer, the program was better. I felt like it was kind of a little bit better. Flatiron, the admissions process, and this is also another thing, they were so hard to get a hold of. The first time when I was first interested in doing a boot camp, they pretty much ghosted me because that was actually around Juneteenth. It actually was around this time last year where I reached out to Digital Crafts, and they decided to celebrate Juneteenth, which, you know, I'm not mad at, but I never heard back from them about like rescheduling it. They ended up canceling my original admissions call and never rescheduled, and I reached out to them, never heard back. So then I reached out to them again at the end of February, when I was interested in doing it, and they were so hard to get in touch with. I never really got a follow-up. Till this day, I can tell you that I've never spoken to anybody at Flatiron School about not only their admissions process, but how their program works. So to me, that's just kind of like red flags. I saw really good reviews about Flatiron School, so I wouldn't knock it off of your list, but that was my personal experience, and that's why I ultimately didn't go with Flatiron School, because they were just, for me, so hard to get in touch with. And I think that's something important to keep in mind. Now we're down to General Assembly. And General Assembly, like I said, I originally was interested in General Assembly last summer, and so when I reached back out to say, hey, like, I think I'm interested again, they already had my stuff on file. I got a call the next day. I got scheduled for my final interview that same week. You know, it was a very quick process, and they were very, not only attentive, but responsive to my questions and things that I had like issues with. And even when I ended up deciding to move my start date, you know, they were very attentive and listened a lot to what I had to say and were very like responsive. So ultimately, even though General Assembly had some very questionable reviews, I still decided that I wanted to go with them. And a tip and slash trick that I learned this, but also they're going to reiterate this in your outcomes class if you decide to join General Assembly. But one thing you can also do is go to LinkedIn and you can actually search for alumni within the Georgia General Assembly Network or Digital Crafts and see where they're working. So that also was a big factor for me. And so when I looked it up, Digital Crafts had a lot of people, and I actually ended up realizing on LinkedIn that I knew quite a few people that went to Digital Crafts. But what sold me with General Assembly is that there were so many of their alumni that were working at big companies and small companies. And here in Atlanta, I saw a lot of Home Depot, I saw a lot of Delta. And then I also saw like the FANG companies, which, you know, those are kind of higher level. And I'm not so much interested in working at like Facebook or Google. Like, yeah, it'd be nice, but that's not where I didn't like solely want a job in that. So I think that's also important. And that's where I kind of was bummed again about Digital Crafts, because I saw a lot of good reviews where they were talking about how like when they were ready to look for another job, the CEO or like instructors, like they were very good and responsive and quick at helping them secure another position, like almost immediately. So I think Digital Crafts definitely shined in that. With that being said, I hope this video was very informative and insightful, and I hope it helped you guys ultimately decide what bootcamp that you ultimately want to do. If you have any other questions, please feel free to comment down below, subscribe, share the video with somebody that you might be interested in, and definitely suggest anything you guys would like to see. I would love to help and, you know, talk more about my experience. I will be doing a lot of update videos, but my next video will be talking about the income share agreement, also known as the ISA, and my thoughts on it and why I think you may or may not want to sign one. So that being said, have a great rest of your day, your week, and I hope you're continuing on your journey, and have a great rest of your summer. Bye.